Greg, President Trump's $200 billion of tariffs against Chinese imports are now in effect. What impact do you see this having on United Technologies?
Ultimately, tariffs are just a tax on the consumer. When our cost of our air conditioners go up, the cost of our engines go up. That gets, you see that in the ticket price of a new air conditioner. You see that in the ticket price at an airline. So it's a pain to manage, but it's not unmanageable for a company like UTC. I would say it's much more difficult at the consumer level when all of a sudden you have to pass along 3 price increases as we've done this year.
But how about for some of your customers? One of your biggest ones, Boeing, has said that these tariffs on aluminum and steel are going to hurt their profits. What is the ripple effect on UTC?
So our biggest customer, Boeing and Airbus. Boeing is obviously at a disadvantage to Airbus in terms of the material cost coming into them. I think the bigger threat to the Boeing company relates to what happens in China. 1 out of every 4 737s being built today goes to China. When the price goes up, are they still going to be building all those 737s and delivering to China? Will there be repercussions relative to, are the Chinese going to all of a sudden boycott U.S. manufacturing? I think the unintended consequences of tariffs are the things that worry me.
Well, the way President Trump is selling is that he says these tariffs will protect American plants and save U.S. jobs. Is that how you see it?
I wish it were that simple. The fact is, there may be a few jobs that get saved in the steel industry. There may be a few jobs, and again, most of the aluminum in this country is imported anyway, so there's not really jobs there. But I think it is a very short-term view. The fact is, jobs move where the customers are, right? And so, we are not a big importer of product from China. We make elevators in China. We make air conditioners in China. You have to manufacture where the customers are. And we're not going to bring any of those jobs back because of these tariffs. I think, again, it's a very short-sighted view and not a very informed view.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see these trade tensions between the United States and China playing out? Is this going to go into an all-out trade war, or is this just tough political talk?
Susie, I wish I was smart enough to understand what the ultimate goal here was. I think everybody would agree that fair trade is important with free trade. And we believe in free trade, we believe in fair trade. And so the elimination of tariffs is important. And I think the current administration is doing their best to try and level the trade playing field. I'm just not sure it's the best tactic to do it.
Is there any good that might come out of these trade tensions between China and the U.S.? Is there a silver lining?
My hope is we come out of this with a better understanding of the necessity for free trade. And if you think about it, we have lifted the world out of poverty, right? 30% of the world out of poverty in the last 30 years because of free trade, right? Moving people from the farms to the factories in China, 650 million people, all of that because of free trade. And I think, if anything, people will understand even better the necessity to continue to embrace this.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to President Trump about your views on all this?
No, I've not. We've talked obviously to folks in the administration. I think one of our best conduits was Gary Cohen, who was, I think, a voice of reason sometimes, although I think Steve Mnuchin gets it as well.
If the president reached out to you and said, Greg, tell me, what do you think about these tariffs? What advice would you give him?
I would say, Mr. President, these are a bad idea. Tit for tat trade wars, nobody wins.